Welcome to Fashionology Today, your weekly fashion talk show, where we're going to meet with designers, hear from models, talk to manufacturers, and more, who are going to share their products and tell their stories during a live, weekly 30-minute TV show. Only on the Fashion Network FNTV, and today's guest, Adolfo Sanchez, fashion designer. Today is September 19th, 2023. You're watching Fashionology Today. Hello and welcome to Fashionology Today, your weekly fashion talk show on the Fashion Network. I'm very excited for today's show for a variety of reasons. I love Trending Tuesdays, so I'm excited to have that segment. But today we have an incredible guest, a guest that has grown up in the industry, been through the ringer, gone on TV shows like Next in Fashion, which we're going to talk to him about being on Netflix TV show, and much more. He's here with us live. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Adolfo Sanchez. Hello, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I got to speak with you for a minute prior to the show, and we're just so excited to talk with you for a variety of reasons. The first, I think it'd be great if you told us a little bit about your background, because even though I now know it, I think some of our viewers don't, and I think they'd like to.
Well, I am a self-taught designer that was born. I'm a California boy, I gotta say. I don't know how much more of a boy I still am, but California boy at heart, born in Los Angeles, raised in the burbs of Orange County. My parents are both from Mexico. I'm first generation Mexican American. My background really was in high-end retail. I fell in love with fashion I was a teenager when I fell in love with fashion, and I didn't really know how to break into the business back then. I think now social media and everything has made it a little easier to, try to go about figuring how to get into the business. But I didn't really know how to do it then. So the easiest way for me to approach was through selling the clothing.
Yes.
I climbed the corporate ladder of Italian fashion houses and just worked for a lot of the houses like Gucci and Versace and
wow. What a difference that is to be, growing up and wanting to be a fashion designer, self-taught. I find so many of the incredible designers today are self-taught. I'm not pitching to not go to college, especially design school, but many of them are. And, my history is I actually went to design school a long, long time ago in 94 to 99, I guess. And I didn't learn sewing. So I'm a fashion designer who can do everything except sew. So to hear someone has self-taught them that is always so encouraging and exciting for me. But, what's the difference between corporate ladder and working for yourself now?
Well, the main difference is like we had insane numbers that we would have to hit. I was on the retail sales side, so we had insane numbers that we'd have like at Gucci or some of these like fashion houses. And like there's literally people just constantly coming in. They'd be like, "This bag, can I just pay for it?" As opposed to trying to get someone to convince them as to why they should have. Like it was just like already in a desire to like,
this is great,
right?
Yeah.
And so like you're selling, and then you go, I think I'm going to leave and start my own brand. And then you realize how much harder it is to build your own brand from scratch and have people learn the name and learn what you do. And that's the whole thing about, the difference between corporate. That corporation has a huge machine behind it.
Yes.
And then it's you. And so so it just depends on what, that's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here you go, right? You're on Fashionology Today. And you've been in many magazines and you were in Next in Fashion, which we're still going to get to. But here's a gorgeous, well, I can't tell if it's a jumpsuit or it's a top and pants. Either way, it's stunning. In one of your favorite colors, red.
I love red. Always gravitated to it. Red, black, metallics always tends to be the things that I gravitate to. But that is a top. It was actually a full suit. We took the jacket off, and it's a bow top with these flared, kind of over exaggerated belt.
Yeah. So take our viewers through becoming an actual designer well, for example, for me, I was always a designer. I won't bore everyone with details, but I ended up going into, well, being at the right place at the right time, which I think is a lot of what happens within the industry.
Yes.
And I was immediately found myself as a junior in college, interning for a company that I ended up marrying the owner, having 3 children, and immediately was private label designing and so on and so forth for big box stores. So I was private label designing, which is totally different, until I launched my own brand. And so here you are with now your own brand. How did that start? And was it part of what brought you to Next in Fashion?
So, it's interesting because I think that when a lot of like fashion interns come in, intern with me, or there's like fashion students that want to intern with me, they're almost kind of looking for an answer to the path.
Right.
And I don't think there is an
a simple solution.
Yeah, I don't
exist.
There's the obvious way, right? The obvious way is you go intern somewhere, some corporation, you get a job and you stay there to try to climb a corporate ladder, and that takes time and time. But my story is so unique, and anyone who I've ever spoken to or speak to, like yourself, always has their own unique story of how they got to where they got and where they're at. And for me, I was like a wild, crazy raver teenager, and hanging out with these colorful kids that were into costuming, and kind of led me into learning, the Westwood and all the fashion houses and the Galliano when he was at Dior. And that's how I fell in love with fashion. And then I started making kind of like, I was that kid that was with the sheets at night with the lamp, hand sewing costume, because I was scared that parents would find out and not approve it and stuff. And that kind of led me to sewing on the side. I went and bought like a little sewing machine, little home sewing machine. I was just kind of doing it on the side while I worked high end. And I worked for Better. Oh, go ahead. No,
I'm sorry. We have a little bit of a connection issue, so that's part of it. I apologize, guys. But it's there's no short solution, and I'll just say it. There's no simple way to having a big checkbook, and a lot of people, I believe, enter the industry because they want to be a household name, and I'm not a household name, but my brand is great. There's thousands of brands, and only 10 or so are what people really know. And I think that is something that isn't taught on the streets or in school. I think mostly what is taught, and from what I've actually seen teaching, is a group of people that think they're just going to go through, design school, for example, and become the next name brand. And it just doesn't happen that way.
Well, it's like Hollywood, right? So Hollywood is my backyard, and like everyone knows like the Tom Cruises and the John Travoltas and like Nicole Kidmans, and like they name and they show a new feature, and that feature is showing this mentions 2 actors, but there's hundreds.
That's a great thing.
Working there, and so I think when they come to pursue Hollywood, they want to be the Nicole Kidman or the whoever it is. And the reality is you could still have a good career and maybe not achieve that. Louis Vuitton has been around how long?
Right. 1800s. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, it takes a long time to, to build.
Oh, absolutely. There's very few kid supers right out there. Even a brand like Supreme, he was around for 30 years before people knew who he was. I mean, it started in Asia, and it was a skateboard streetwear brand. I mean, it's just fascinating to hear stories. And I need to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I'd love to hear more about your story and take us through some of these amazing images that I've been putting up. So we'll be right back. You're watching Fashionology today on the Fashion Network.
Rise, entrepreneur. Take that first step towards freedom. So long to the old routine. Welcome to your new venture. There's an industry that needs disrupting. Ideas you should be challenging. It takes courage to do what you love. We'll help you begin your journey. As a business like you, dedicated to you, we can take on tomorrow together with a business account you could open today. Entrepreneurs across the UK. Start your business with Tide.
Thank you to all of our advertisers. We can't do this without you. We're talking to, designer Adolfo Sanchez. This is an amazing design right here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and then I love this. It's mixed media. It's just beautiful. How was that experience?
How's what?
The experience with Harper's Bazaar.
I'm really blessed to have support from some great people, and Maison Privé is my PR firm that's based in West Hollywood, and they handle a lot of the placement of celebrity product placement in magazines, and Alexandra, who handles a lot of that for me, is fantastic, and I love them. They're great, and so they handle this project.
Well, and that's another great point to all these, designers that are watching that just want to be the next you. You have to also know that you're going to have money set aside for PR firms and every aspect of being a designer.
And help. You need help.
You can't do it. It's not a one-man machine for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's like so many designers think like they have to be the pattern maker always. They have to be the one that's sewing it. They have to be the one that's like all of the steps. And if you do that, you have to do it in the beginning, maybe right to start. But like if you do that, you can only get so far if you're always doing that with a business. You have to eventually get help.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And for those watching saying, well, I have $10,000 in my checking account. Is that enough to make a brand? It's really not. But at the end of the day, it could be a start. Don't put all that money into making the actual clothes, right? You need to divide it up. You need to figure out where it needs to go so that you can, manage better. And a one-man machine doesn't work in the fashion industry.
Well, and now they have a tool that, I didn't have and we didn't have as much, now they have free digital marketing. Social media is everywhere, and brands have blown up just because of them posting what they're making at home now, and TikTok and all that, so it's like there's now way more, I think.
Yeah, I have to admit I'm still not a TikTok user solely because I don't have time. And I'm probably twice your age, and we didn't have any of this when I was, in my first 20 years of being a designer. So, for someone my age, learning some of these social media tools is actually quite difficult. So I think knowing where your strong suit is a great, a great attribute to being a great designer.
And it's time consuming, and it's a lot of energy. And TikTok is more about like showing people what you made and how you made it, and filming yourself for 3 hours and compiling it into like a 20-second, 30-second video, editing. And I'm lucky that I'm 38, and I'm lucky that at my age, like I caught the wave of MySpace, like the beginning of it all, in the beginning of celebrity influencers, what we call, what they're called now, and learning that aspect. And even though my generation learned that aspect, it's still like annoying to have to learn now TikTok, now this, now that. There's a new one. Turn
the camera on, and that camera, and it's not just learning the craft, right? It's learning all these other crafts as well. These are some great. They're just beautiful. And people can call them gowns, formal wear, but I have to tell you, this one especially, I'd be wearing, to a charity event or a gala in a heartbeat. Incredible women's wear, to be honest. So, just gorgeous.
I love evening wear. It doesn't matter, and I love it across all boards, and how that, like men's suiting,
right?
I just love the era of like chic, and it didn't matter what this whole classism thing. It didn't matter where you ranked as far as finances, but you still dressed up nicely to go out. Like I love that whole.
Oh, that's very true. My father, for example, he's 76, and whenever we fly, he's actually in a suit. And we could be going to see one of my kids in college on the East Coast, and he's in a suit, and that's his era. And for me, I'm 47, and I get dressed even if I'm at home. You're not going to find me wearing, sweats, because That's not how we were. And I feel stronger as a woman when I am dressed. And you make some very, amazing, bold, strong designs. What designs got you into Next in Fashion?
You know what's so funny with Next in Fashion? They literally approached me on social media.
Oh, that's great.
And you know why I think social media is so important? Because I feel like so much of my career has been able to get to a different place because of who I've been approached by on social media. And they found me at a time where I had just gone through my fire at my retail store and kind of had to start all over again. And I think they kind of liked the storyline of like, losing and rebuilding and
and it was
not giving up.
Just the emotional pain or the physical pain, I should say, of losing all of your patterns and garments and fabrics. It's the emotional pain as well. And to be honest, if that's what got you on Next in Fashion, I think it was a great move. And so many, we've just loved watching you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it was part that. I think, they also, like, when we first got on the show, there was actually like 2 or 3 more teams than were supposed to be on the show. And what they did is they did they gave us like a kind of competition before the show actually was going to start, and they selected who was going to be on there. And they had us do like a screen record test to see how we were on camera. And then they did of like 20, I think it was like 20-minute as a 20-minute competition, and it was not filmed. This was all not filmed. This is all just for the producers to see out of the groups. They brought all over who was going to make it on, and they were like, 20 minutes, you and your teammate that you
that's it
about, and you guys are going to make something, and let's see what you can make. And so, part of it was our story, but part of it was also those components, those final components that let kind of make it on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was not easy.
It's not easy. It was not, because
it takes 20-hour days.
Well, and not just that, but like also like like if you're on Project Runway or one or the other ones and you're green and you're just starting, you don't have responsibilities at home. You're just like, you're getting going and that's what you're doing. But if you have a business, we all figure out how to still run our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
On top of it. And so it's like I would go after filming 14, 15-hour days and come to my studio in downtown and leave Post-it notes at like 2 a.m. for the staff. Go back and get 4 hours of sleep and film another 15, 16-hour day for 6 to 7 days a week for a month and a half straight.
And that's what's not shown, right? And that's the part that's not shown, I think, is so important for our viewers to have heard a little bit about the truth and honesty and how raw, the whole process is, because it's not for the faint of heart. And, I think also what you're saying is true, that the producers, they can tell right away, off air, watching, who is going to have the ability to do this and who's not.
And who's going to be the most entertaining and who's this, and who's going to be character, because it's still television, right?
It's still reality.
Yeah, it's reality. So I still want like the kind of, and the thing is that they made it very clear that they wanted to make it a positive show. And so they edited out a lot of stuff, and they'll edit you out into a way that they want to edit you out, because they have characters that they're trying to fill in this story.
Yeah. Oh, and I hope people watching any of those shows live in their own reality, that is stuff that happens, right? I mean, it's it does. But
one of the most interesting parts is like, like let's say you're sewing and you're like just wherever you're at, right? You're sewing and then like something goes wrong and you're mic'd, right? So you're like, oh, and then next thing you know, producers are like, go to Adolfo's table, something's going on, good. And then you get like camera guys around you while you're like trying to fix whatever you did. You're like, everything's fine, it's a lot of pressure. And
would you do it again?
Probably not.
Right? I mean, I've heard that many times. Probably not.
It depends on the context of it. I wouldn't do a show again. I mean, it was really clear to everyone that my partner and I on there were like not really, on the same level. And so it's like,
that's hard.
Yeah.
But purposeful. I'm sure they planned it that way,
Well, I don't think they thought that was going to happen. I think they thought that we're really going to be just really great together because her background is the underground nightlife. And so that's my background. The difference is that's still her life. And that was my background in my past.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's still like the life that she's living. And for me, that was like a part of my upbringing that got me into fashion. And so I think
where you are, but it's not who you are today.
Yeah. I think that's where their disconnect was. I think there's like a few differences, you know.
Yeah. Well, want to let our viewers know, we're going to talk few more minutes. I can't believe how fast our shows go, but Trending Tuesday segment is up next. We have to air one more commercial. We'll be right back with Adolfo Sanchez.
There's a couple things I'd like to say to you. After all the crazy things that we've been through, I needed you in the dead of night, the wake of the day, first broken light, and blind I'd follow you, I never realized how much I needed.
Comfort, what we deliver by delivering.
That commercial gets me every time. It's like, oh. Anyway, thank you.
Like I want something sent to me comfort now. Like it's just, it's so comforting.
Well, I'm excited to jump into our segment of Trending Tuesday. Believe it or not, we had planned this prior, and you told us these are two of your favorite colors. Red and silver. These are colors that are being seen all over Fashion Week, both, of course, in New York a couple weeks ago and overseas. Also, the ballet flats. They're ranked like number one to be wearing. A lot of women are wearing flats, and I'm thrilled with that. A quick story, how funny for me, about 2006, I was overseas in London doing some work, and I saw these shoes. Never seen them before in the US. This was 2006. What are those shoes? They're everywhere. I'm now seeing them on every single woman. Ballet flats.
Oh, wow.
They came from London in 2006. We didn't get them here till about 2008. Thank goodness they're here to stay. I own probably 50 of them. And I wanted to share a couple examples today because they are available at any budget. Of course, not only are the red and silver, but black and your traditional ballet color, the light pink, is a huge shoe to be wearing right now. Also, the black with buckles, that is actually Stuart Weitzman, I think did really well. Ghani makes a great pair. And the red pair is on Poshmark for $25. It's more of like a mule, you slide into it, but it's great. And the rouging, the fabric, not in my size, or I would own it. But we also have a question, and also, guys, you can read Trending Tuesday segments in our blog every week. But I want to pop a question up because this is so funny. Adolfo, it says, can you wear ballet flats with hose and socks, especially in the winter, colder months? Thank you, Samantha. I know what I think. What do you think?
I think that ballet flats and flats in general are just a much more comfort thing. And I also think you can make them chic, though. If you feel like you can, pull the look, I say rock it. Why not?
I agree. I think ballet flats are a must for me. With my physical disability, which I'm sure you don't know about, but a lot of people have heard, and I can't wear heels anymore. So flats are imperative to me. But what I'm careful about I love pointy, because round, it really isn't flattering on most women, especially 5'2" here. So, wearing pointy ballet flats. And so I think it's like you're saying, it's the style. It's it's an overall look, not just throw on the ballet flats.
Yeah, I think it's style it.
We have another question. Let's just take that real quick. Oh, it's for you. Did you find Next in Fashion helped your career? If so, how? Thanks, Liz.
Good question, Liz. So here's the funny thing about me being on the show is that it aired 2 weeks into being in lockdown.
Oh.
Oh, we're like waiting for the anticipation of the show to air. We're getting messages from like people
That's
at
right.
Netflix. Huh?
That is right. I'm remembering. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting messages from people at Netflix that it's going to come out. The preview's coming out. Everything's happening. Then we start hearing about this COVID situation. In one sense, it was really great that it came out at that time because they had way more viewers than they,
Absolutely.
because everyone's locked in their home trying to figure out what to do with their time, right? Another sense, I don't know if I immediately was able to like capitalize on those opportunities because everyone was trying to figure out what was happening in the world. So I think my answer overall is yes, of course, it did help. Netflix is a huge platform. We're here right now talking about it.
Yeah, that's why I pulled you in. I was like, I want to talk to him.
Yeah. Answers yes.
Absolutely. So I think overall, as your years progress, it's a great platform, and I think it depends on the timing of the show and who you are, and also what your brand is about. It really depends.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I've watched each of the Next in Fashions. I believe there's been 3 now so far. I think that's it. Yeah, 3.
Season 2. Yeah.
And several of the designers, I don't know why they're on the show, to be honest. So I think it really depends who you are. If you're going to be a designer, to be, right? It's interesting.
I do.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I do think that on my season, I know Liz was saying it was so help, and I think that the best way to answer that is kind of additional recognition to your brand and to yourself is always great, because you can be the best designer in the world, but if you don't have the eyes on you, no one knows who you are and what you're doing. And so I think that the TV component is really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's what drove me to you, and why we want you on our network. So we're talking about that, which is awesome. Here's a couple more of your designs. I mean, everyone's going to have a chance to go to your website. Of course, we've got that up. And your work is just fantastic. But you run the gamut. We've only got a couple minutes left, but from formal wear, women's wear, men's wear. I saw bespoke on your website. People can jump in and say, well, here's what I'm looking for. What's your favorite to design?
Well, so everything is bespoke. And so everything is made to measure. Everything's made to order. So like my evening wear is made to order, our bridal's made to order, and our men's suiting is made to order.
Okay.
What we're working on now, and what I'm doing with what COVID taught me, is that having more of a digital footprint and being more available regardless if there's events are happening or not, right? Because that really affected the business and was able to show me that like without things happening, I'm really affected. And so our online presence is something that I'm definitely pushing on, and we're moving more into ready to wear. I will say that my favorite, to answer your question, I do love men's, and I'm putting for the first time in this next collection, I'm putting a bigger focus on the men's side and adding a lot more menswear into it.
That's great. Fantastic.
Because I want to wear a lot of it, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's something we're going to all be able to watch unfold on our network. Menswear is something that I think is very undervalued. I think it's actually an incredible sector to get into. So I think that's very smart. A few years ago, I was at Nordstrom working with actually Pete Nordstrom, and I said, you don't have any pajama presence. So boom, we went into that, and here we are, and go into any Nordstrom's, you're going to find a ton of private label pajamas.
And we want it. Men want it. I've made stuff for myself, and men are asking me, where did I get it? Who made it? And I can actually wear it myself and promote it myself as well.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic having you today. I hope
Thank you.
Viewers are enjoying it. A lot more questions are coming in, but we just don't have time right now. But I think we'll see you soon. And I just want to tell everyone, thank you. Thank you for watching both the network, the Fashion Network, FMTV, but also my show, Fashionology Today, your weekly fashion talk show. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Adolfo.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Rise, entrepreneur. Take that first step towards freedom. So long to the old routine. Welcome to your new venture. There's an industry that needs